Hey guys, tonight we journey way back, before smartphones, before cities, before even the wheel. You're barefoot, the stars are your only ceiling, and you're just trying not to freeze or get eaten. That's right, we're tracing the first sleep. Where it happened, when it started, and how in the mammoth-loving world cavemen actually got their rest. The air is cool and still, and you're crouched near a fire. Sparks rise like fireflies into the night, the flames crackle, licking at sticks and bones, casting soft orange light across worn faces and tired limbs. The night is long, your body aches, and somewhere in the shadows you hear a low rustle. That could be wind, could also be a leopard. Sleep now, bold choice. You glance over at the others curled up in clumps, skin to skin beneath animal hides. You don't exactly have a temper, Paddock, but warmth is warmth. The ground is unforgiving, but after a day of tracking bison and avoiding snakes, it'll do. Still, every sound out there keeps you tethered to wakefulness. You're trying to rest in a world where rest could be your last mistake. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. I bet your bed beats a mammoth skin on gravel. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lean into the firelight, and the world narrows to flickering warmth and slow breath. This is probably the first bedtime routine. Fire didn't just cook your dinner, it guarded your dreams. Scientists think early humans may have discovered fire over 1 million years ago, but the idea of using it as a nightlight, now that was revolutionary. Suddenly predators hesitated, bugs scattered, and sleep became a little less suicidal. That's right, before fire, sleep was risky business. You might not survive this night, but once you've got a steady flame and some sharp sticks nearby, your odds improve. You might even let yourself drift for more than 10 minutes at a time. You pull a rough fur over your shoulder scraped from some unlucky beast earlier in the season. It's not soft exactly, but it holds in your heat, body heat. By the way, is your main heating system right now. You, the rest of the group, maybe a dog or two if they've warmed up to you, and you to them, more on that later. You huddle close, because this isn't just comfort, it's survival. Alone, you'd freeze. Together, you might snore a little. This isn't sleep as you know it. There's no bedtime, no mattress, no bathroom trip to stall the inevitable. Just exhaustion, darkness, and maybe a little whispered superstition, that rustle in the trees. Some say it's an animal, others say it's the spirit of an ancestor. Either way, you shift closer to the fire and pretend you didn't hear it. Historians still argue whether early humans even saw sleep as something to be done each night. Was it sacred? Was it annoying? A weakness? There are no bedtime diaries, sadly, but many believe the flicker of firelight didn't just bring safety, it brought imagination. Think about it, you're warm, safe, finally resting, and that orange glow dances across the cave wall. Shadows stretch and twist. Is that a bear? A tree? A spirit? Your mind begins to wander. Some researchers argue this is when human storytelling begins, around the fire, half asleep, telling tales to ward off the dark or to explain it. Maybe you're not just sleeping, you're inventing dreams, you're whispering about the stars or the creatures someone saw beyond the cliffs. You're teaching the young ones what to fear and maybe what to hope for. But let's not romanticize it too much, because honestly, you smell terrible, so does everyone else. Hygiene is not a top priority when your whole to-do list is don't die. Your bed is either a dirt patch, a leafy depression, or, if you're really lucky, a rock ledge that only half stabs you in the ribs, and you're sharing that space with bugs, fleas, maybe some lice. That fur blanket, yeah, that thing probably walks on its own when no one's looking. And still you sleep. Eventually your eyelids get too heavy, the fire pops one last coal, and the light takes you slowly, lightly, never fully letting go. You're not sure how long it lasts. Time isn't measured in hours yet. It's measured in hunger, in footsteps, in sunrises. But this strange flicker between exhaustion and alertness, between body warmth and open skies, this is sleep. Not in a bed, not in a house, but in the earliest way we ever knew it, curled close to fire, to others, and to fear. And just like that, the history of human rest begins. You've made it through one prehistoric night, but don't get too cozy, we're just getting started. Remember, the cave might not be as cozy as it looks. You wake up stiff, and not the I slept funny kind of stiff. You've got rocks pressed into your back and maybe a bug in your hair. The fire's down to glowing coals, and the sky is starting to lighten. You made it. You didn't get eaten. You didn't freeze. Small win. But as you stretch, bones creaking like dry branches, you glance back toward the cave, the one you considered sleeping in last night, and yeah, you're glad you didn't. Caves. Sounds like a no-brainer. For a prehistoric Airbnb, right? Stone walls, one entrance to guard, shelter from the elements. Except, they're not exactly five-star accommodations. You shuffle over and peer inside, where cool air spills out like a ghost's sigh. It's damp, mildewy, smells like wet fur and disappointment. See, early humans probably did use caves, but not nearly as often or as comfortably as we picture. Most caves were already occupied by bears, hyenas, bats, sometimes other humans who weren't keen on guests. So unless you wanted a surprise encounter with something clawed and territorial, you had to be real picky about your cave choices. You creep inside a few feet. Your eyes adjust. The floor is uneven and cold. Water drips from somewhere above. You slip slightly on something mossy and try not to gag. Was that a bat? Yup, that was a bat. Added to the list of cave perks. Darkness, dampness, and rabies. No wonder so many early humans preferred to sleep outside. Still, archaeologists have found signs of human presence in caves: charcoal smudges, flint tools, ash circles. These were often temporary shelters, refuge during storms, or a quick stop on the nomadic route. But the idea that everyone slept in a cozy, family cave every night, total Flintstones fantasy. Historians still debate how much time was actually spent in caves versus under the open sky or in makeshift shelters. One fringe theory even suggests that cave paintings weren't done by residents at all, but by people who visited the caves for spiritual or ceremonial reasons. So, basically, prehistoric graffiti artists on a retreat. And those beautiful, intricate cave murals, the ones of horses, handprints, and weird antler-headed humans, yeah, probably not painted next to someone's snoring uncle. Most are deep inside, far from the cave mouth, requiring torches and time. Not exactly your casual bedtime doodle. You step further in and stub your toe on a chunk of rock. The floor isn't soft. It's jagged and uninviting. You imagine trying to curl up here, bone against stone, maybe your head resting on your arm to keep it off the dirt, but the temperature drops fast. Without fire or furs, you'd be shivering in minutes. Outside, you at least had heat and airflow. Here, you're just cold and alone, and possibly stepping in bat poop. And then there's the echo. Every shift, every cough, every snore bounces around like a ghost whispering in your ear. Privacy, non-existent. One person rolls over. Everyone wakes up. This cave isn't a peaceful sleeping chamber. It's an acoustic nightmare. You glance at the walls, trying to imagine how it might have felt sleeping here after a long day of hunting. Your heart still pounding from the chase. The sounds of the night just beyond the entrance. Maybe you light a small fire near the front. Keep watch in shifts. Maybe the bravest or sleepiest takes the far corner, hoping no beetle crawls into their ear. Interestingly, evidence shows some cave-dwelling species may have tried to make things a bit cozier. At one famous Neanderthal site in France, archaeologists found ring-shaped arrangements of broken stalagmites, likely created over 170,000 years ago. No one's sure why. Maybe ritual, maybe shelter, maybe the first bunk beds, who knows. And let's not forget the most important question: how was the ventilation? Because a fire in a cave sounds great, until the smoke starts filling your lungs. Ancient humans weren't fools. They knew not to suffocate themselves. Fires were usually near the entrance, not deep inside. If it was storming and the smoke couldn't escape, had to risk the rain. Caves also carried symbolic weight. Some cultures saw them as womb, like sacred places. The earth's belly, the threshold between the living world and something deeper. Maybe that's why some chose to sleep just outside, close enough to feel protected, but not deep enough to tempt the spirits or the spiders. As you back out of the cave and feel the sun hit your face, you can't help but sigh in relief. No more drips, no more cold stone underfoot. You stretch again, bones popping, and decide, nah, the cave's not the vibe. You'll take your chances with the fire and the bugs, thanks. So while caves seem like the perfect prehistoric bedroom, the truth is a little messier. Yes, they offered shelter. Yes, they're iconic, but they were often more stopover than home. Damp, loud, dark, and occasionally deadly. And just when you think you're done with strange sleeping spots, you remember something else. Not all humans slept on the ground. Some took to the trees. You rub the sleep from your eyes and glance upward. Way up high above, nestled between thick leafy branches, you spot something unexpected. A dip in the limbs padded with leaves, maybe some woven vines. A sleeping platform, like a bird's nest but human-sized. And suddenly your back is already jealous. You start climbing, the bark is rough beneath your palms, and you pull yourself up slowly, carefully, past ants, moss, and more than one suspicious beetle. When you finally reach the perch, you settle onto it, catching your breath, heart thumping. From up here, the world changes. You're above the biting flies, above the growls in the grass, and as the wind moves through the leaves, something else hits you. This feels safe. Before caves, before huts, before furs on the dirt, there was this. Trees, tall, swaying, sometimes shaky, sure, but way better than being an open buffet for nighttime predators. Our earliest ancestors weren't ground sleepers. They were climbers, nesters, arboreal pros. Think more Planet of the Apes than planet Earth. In fact, anthropologists believe that millions of years ago, Australopithecus, one of our distant cousins, likely still slept in trees, much like modern great apes. Gorillas and chimpanzees build fresh sleeping nests every single night from leaves and branches, sometimes even bending the trees to create hammock-like shapes. And odds are, you'd have done the same. You adjust your weight on the branch and imagine how different your nights would be. The cool air brushing against your cheeks, the soft rustle of leaves instead of snoring tribe mates. No rocks jabbing your ribs, no bears sniffing your feet, just the slow sway of wood and the distant call of a night bird. Honestly, kind of magical until you know you fall. Because yeah, there's the small matter of gravity. Historians still argue whether early hominins built secure enough nests to prevent midnight plunges, or if falling from trees was just a tragic occupational hazard. The fossil record does show more than a few broken limbs and skulls that suggest, well, not everyone stuck the landing. But the appeal was clear. In the trees you had a height advantage. You could spot threats, stay clear of ground-based nasties, and catch breezes in hot climates. Some scientists think early tree sleeping even shaped how our bodies developed. Flat backs, rotating shoulders, good grip strength, features great for climbing and for clinging to branches while dreaming of mammoths. There's even a quirky theory floating around that REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the part where you dream the weirdest stuff, may have developed partly because of tree sleeping. The logic: REM sleep involves paralysis of major muscles to stop you from acting out your dreams. If you're 20 feet up in a tree, you really don't want to be kicking and flailing mid-dream about giant talking sloths, so your brain locks you down. Nice, right? You lie back and look at the sky through the leaves. Here in this nest, the moon is your lantern. There's no ceiling but stars. The sounds are strange owls, insects, the distant roar of something you really hope isn't getting closer. But there's an eerie peace to it. Up here it's just you and gravity and whatever's lurking in the branches above. Try not to think about that. While today's humans tend to favor flat, solid, motionless sleep surfaces, our ancestors were more adaptable. This kind of arboreal rest might have lasted for millions of years. Only much later, maybe around 2 million years ago, did we gradually start shifting to the ground. Some blame fire. Once you could light a flame and keep the leopards at bay, the ground became less horrifying. Others say it was our increasing size, too big to comfortably snooze in the trees, too heavy for thin branches. Still, traces of that ancient instinct remain. Ever noticed how babies have a grasp reflex? Put something in a newborn's palm and they grip like a champ. That's not just cute, it's evolutionary memory, a leftover from a time when letting go meant a very short bedtime story. And here's another weird thing. Sleeping elevated isn't extinct. In some cultures even today, people build raised wooden platforms, tree houses, or hammocks for sleeping, not just for comfort but for safety. It's as if that tree sleeping instinct never quite let go, or maybe it just really hates snakes. As you dangle your foot over the side of your leafy nest, you can't help but wonder, was this the first real bed, not just a place to collapse, but something built, shaped, chosen, a deliberate effort to be comfortable? Kind of amazing that it predates memory foam by a few million years. And when you consider that modern beds are now elevated too, off the ground with legs or frames, it makes you think, maybe we never fully got over that fear of ground, level slumber. Somewhere in your brain, an ancient voice still whispers, up is safer. So, you settle into the leaves, letting your eyes drift closed. Up here, among the branches, the night wraps around you like a blanket stitched by evolution. You're not just sleeping, you're surviving, you're adapting, you're dreaming of fruit, of fire, of not falling. But don't get too attached to the view, because eventually humanity climbed down, and when we did, sleep became something new, something shared. Your feet hit the ground with a soft thud, and you feel the difference instantly. Earth solid, uneven, covered in sticks and unexpected damp spots. There's a reason you slept in the trees for so long, but now something's changed. You're not just a lone sleeper anymore. You've got a group. A clan, maybe even a proto-village. And that means sleep is no longer just about you, it's about us. You glance around the clearing as the sun sets. People are moving closer together, dragging bundles of dry grass, piling up leaves, furs, maybe even dragging a few branches into shape, the first signs of a shared sleeping space. It's chaotic, uneven, a bit like a slumber party with 0 pillows and a lot more bug bites, but it's something new, it's collective. Historians still argue whether this shift, sleeping in tight-knit groups on the ground, was driven by social bonding, safety, or simply convenience. But one thing's clear: once humans started forming groups that stuck together beyond hunting or mating, everything changed, including how and where they rested. You find a spot beside a low, burning fire, not too close to the snorer on your left, and far enough from the restless foot kicker on your right. Welcome to prehistoric roommate problems. There's a kind of unspoken etiquette. Don't hog the fur, don't roll into the fire, and for the love of all that's holy, don't pass gas into the communal wind. You're not a caveman monster. You curl up, surrounded by warmth, actual human warmth. Body heat is powerful. In a tightly packed circle, your combined temperatures can fight off even the most bitter winds. Some anthropologists think this proximity-based sleeping didn't just keep people alive, it strengthened bonds. You trusted those around you enough to sleep next to them, to be vulnerable, unguarded, drooling into the dirt while they stood watch. That's right. Watch. This wasn't sleep like you know it today, a solid 8 hours of peaceful unconsciousness. This was fragmented, cautious, staggered. Someone always kept half an eye open. Maybe it was the elder who couldn't quite drift off, or the mother nursing her baby, or that guy who claimed to hear panthers in the bushes every 5 minutes. Either way, there was a rotating vigilance. Sleep had a security system, and it ran on shared anxiety. And guess what? That pattern still lingers in your biology. Studies of modern-day hunter-gatherer tribes, like the Hadza of Tanzania, show that in group sleep settings, someone is awake or half awake almost all the time. It's as if evolution hardwired your sleep schedule with an internal neighborhood watch. Thanks, ancestors, very restful of you. You turn over on your patch of flattened grass, feeling a rock poke you in the ribs. No mattress, no pillow, just earth, but you've learned to make do. Maybe you stuff a fur under your head or use your own arm until it goes numb. Not ideal, but functional. And hey, no one's charging you rent. There's something else happening here too. You start to trust these people. You begin to understand who snores, who fidgets, who talks in their sleep, usually about food or mammoths, and who makes weird little whimpering sounds. The nightly routine becomes familiar, comforting, even. And through that familiarity, the concept of home begins to form. Not a place, not yet, but a people, a sleeping cluster of bodies beneath the stars that signals safety, belonging, and a chance to rest a little deeper. Here's a fun little fringe theory. Some researchers believe communal sleeping may have sparked the earliest forms of empathy. If you heard someone having a bad dream, or crying quietly, or shivering, maybe you reached out. Maybe you shared your fur, maybe you didn't shove them off when they snuggled closer. In a world this harsh, kindness was revolutionary. At bedtime, that's where it quietly bloomed. Of course, not all communal sleep was cuddly and cute. Fights happened. Someone stole someone else's hide. Someone kicked too hard and got banished to the fire's edge. Drama is eternal, but still, the act of sleeping together began to shape early human society. Patterns formed. Rituals emerged. Maybe there was even a bedtime story or two, murmured to the younger ones while the older folks shared glances over the flames. You stare into that fire now, hypnotized by the flickering shadows. They dance on faces lined with soot, laughter, fatigue. There's a rhythm to the night, a pulse. People shift, sigh, turn. No alarms, no clocks, just the quiet choreography of group sleep. Some fall asleep quickly. Others mumble or twitch. You lie there listening to the wind, to the crackling embers, to the ancient heartbeat of shared humanity. And just when you think you're nodding off, someone lets out a truly awful snore, like a mammoth choking on a fishbone, and you jolt upright. Yeah, welcome to prehistoric cohabitation. Still you smile, because even that sound, it means you're not alone. The fire dims, the sky goes deep indigo, and under this canopy of stars and trust, you finally let go, not completely, just enough, because out here the ground is hard, the people are loud and sleep. Sleep is a shared, imperfect miracle. But don't get too dreamy yet. Communal sleep had another benefit, and it wasn't just bonding, it was protection. Because in the darkness beyond your group, something else is always awake. You're halfway into a dream about roasting honeyed berries when a noise pulls you back, sharp, guttural, low to the ground. Not a snore, not a mumble, something else. You freeze. Next to you, someone stirs but doesn't wake. Across the fire, a pair of eyes flick open. Another rises, slowly gripping a stick. There it is again, that sound closer. A jaguar, a rival clan, or just a hungry boar with terrible manners. Welcome to threat-based sleep, where dreams are optional and vigilance is mandatory. Even with fire, even in groups, sleep for early humans was never guaranteed. Predators didn't wait for you to feel rested, and neither did other humans. Raids, ambushes, food theft, they all tended to happen when people were most vulnerable. That meant your brain had to become a kind of night shift security guard, always on edge, always ready to bolt. This is where your modern sleep habits start to look a little suspicious. That tendency to wake up at 3 a.m. for no reason. That might just be leftover programming from when a saber-tooth sniffing around camp wasn't just a bad dream, it was the reason you didn't sleep too deeply. Historians still argue whether these partial awakenings, sometimes called segmented sleep, were the norm for ancient humans. Some suggest people routinely woke around midnight, tended the fire, maybe talked quietly, or even had a snack, then drifted off again until dawn, a kind of two-phase sleep pattern that matched the night's natural rhythm. And it's dangerous. You shift in your fur pile, ears perked. There's a rustle in the grass, a snap of twig, but then nothing. Silence so complete it thunders. The group exhales. The stick goes back down. You return to your half, dream of honeyed berries, shaken but intact. Yet a part of you never quite slips under again, and that's the point. Sleep wasn't about total unconsciousness, it was about balance. Enough rest to recover, but not so much you missed the paw prints beside your head. To help manage these risks, early humans developed behaviors, rituals even, that were the prehistoric equivalent of a home security system. Fire rings were maintained religiously. Sleeping circles were arranged so that children or weaker members were at the center, the strongest, most alert adults, always near the edge. And don't forget noise. Some anthropologists believe people actually talked or sang softly during the night to let each other know they were awake. Subtle signals passed like a torch, so no one ever felt fully alone in the dark. Then there's the smoke trick. Yep, some clever ancestors discovered that if you let damp wood smolder instead of burn bright, it produces loads of smoke, great for driving off insects, and even better at masking human scent from predators. Just try not to cough through your dreams. There's a fringe theory that adds a weird twist to all this. Some believe our ancestors trained themselves to sleep in short bursts, micro-sleeps strung together across the night. Not exactly refreshing, but enough to survive, the kind of sleep you grab with one eye open when you're camped at the edge of the unknown. And speaking of the unknown, that's when things start to get spooky. Because the night wasn't just dangerous, it was mysterious. You didn't just fear what was out there, you imagined it. Spirits, demons, shadow creatures, that rustling in the grass. Maybe it wasn't an animal, maybe it was something worse. Cue the first bedtime monsters. Across early cultures, myths emerged about night demons that preyed on sleepers, like the Mara, a Scandinavian spirit that sat on your chest and gave you nightmares. No, really, it's where we get the word nightmare, or the Huli Jing in ancient China, shape-shifting fox spirits known to appear in dreams. Our ancestors didn't have Netflix, but their imaginations ran wild. So now you're lying on the ground, half asleep, heart thumping from both a possible jaguar and the imagined hiss of an angry forest ghost. This is not ideal, but it is very human. To cope, tribes created rituals, pre-sleep chants, protective charms, amulets worn on the wrist or tucked into bedding. Sleep wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. You didn't close your eyes until you'd asked your ancestors to watch over you. Or at the very least, cursed your enemies with louder snores than yours. Some of these traditions still linger: a bedtime prayer, a lucky pillow, a nightlight, all traces of that ancient urge to feel protected while you drifted into the unknown. You roll onto your side, the fire now enders. You feel safer, knowing there are others close, awake or dreaming, but still, every twig snap keeps you just a hair above deep sleep. Your brain is wired like a motion sensor, flicking the lights on at the slightest sign of trouble. And even when there isn't a threat, the fear lingers. You dream of running, of falling, of watching your tribe disappear into the trees while you stand frozen. These aren't just bad dreams, they're training drills, evolution's way of saying, don't get too comfy. But here's the strange thing, even with all that fear, all those risks, you still sleep. You have to. The body demands it, and in those few precious hours when your mind sinks into silence, something magical happens. Healing, memory consolidation, maybe even vision. The seeds of ideas planted in the dark, ready to bloom at sunrise. Because just beyond this terrifying twig, snapping night, a new dawn always waits. The fire will be stoked, the tribe will stir, and you'll stretch, scratch, yawn, and do it all again. But hey, if the alternative is never sleeping, yeah, you'll take your chances with the demons and the big cats. You wake up with a mouthful of hair not yours. Someone's fur blanket has migrated onto your face during the light, and you're now part of the communal tangle of limbs, hides, and morning breath. You sit up, slowly. Everything pops and aches, but hey, you're alive. Success. Around you, others begin to stir. Some stretch like lazy cats, One stands and promptly stumbles into the fire ring, swearing softly. In whatever prehistoric version of ouch exists, there's laughter, there's grumbling, there's the unmistakable sound of someone scratching in places best left undescribed. And hovering in the air is that familiar sense of having barely slept, yet somehow having rested enough to hunt, to build, to walk another, 10 miles if needed. That's the weird trick of early human sleep. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. You look around and realize the environment is shifting again. The group isn't in some permanent village. There's no wooden hut, no caves right now even. Just temporary shelters, lean-tos, rock overhangs, a fallen tree adapted into a sleeping alcove. You're a nomad, and your bed. It changes with the wind. That's the thing about sleep for early humans. It was wildly adaptable. Forget the idea of a consistent bedtime routine. You might sleep under stars one night, inside a cave the next, then curl up in a pile of leaves when caught in a storm. Each location brought its own advantages and its own creepy crawlies. Caves, for instance, were a double-edged obsidian blade. Sure, they offered protection from wind and rain. Their walls echoed warmth, but they also made excellent dens for bears, snakes, and other tenants who were not excited to share. Historians still argue whether caves were used mainly for ritual gatherings or as reliable shelters. Evidence of fire use and sleeping debris suggest both. Some caves were party halls and bunk beds. Meanwhile, tree canopies, yeah, those are still hanging around in some areas. Some anthropologists argue that even late into human evolution, climbing trees to rest remained a viable backup strategy. If it worked for orangutans, why not us? But your group now favors semi-open spaces, shelters made of bent saplings, lashed together with vines, covered in leaves and hides. Primitive, yes, but customizable. You know where the cold wind comes from, so you build your shelter with its back turned. You know the sun rises early and hot, so you place your head facing west. Little things, smart things. You step outside your sleeping circle to relieve yourself because you know cavemen had bladders too, and when you return you see someone carefully smoothing out a patch of dirt where they slept. Not just for comfort. This is habit, routine, maybe even pride. And there it is again, the slow creep of ritual, of behavior shaped by repetition. You don't just fall into sleep anymore. You prepare for it, clear the ground, check for bugs, smooth the leaves, maybe even fluff a hide or two. Your ancestors were low-tech, not low-maintenance. You sit again, noticing how the shelters are arranged, not randomly. There's a subtle geometry to the way you all sleep. The elders are grouped together, the kids clustered near parents. Hunters and sentinels on the edge, a sleeping formation. Think of it as the original Airbnb layout, functional, with just a hint of survivalist feng shui. Here's something curious. Fringe researchers have proposed that early humans may have even aligned their sleeping spots with celestial patterns. Yes, like a prehistoric star map. There's some evidence of burial sites where the dead, who presumably lay still quite well, were positioned in relation to solstice directions. If that practice extended to sleep, well, then your ancestors may have been stargazing and sleep positioning with purpose. Night, as the sun dips again and your group settles in, the differences are subtle but real. Yesterday, you clumped close together. Tonight there's a little more space. You're getting used to this terrain, to this routine. That tree over there, perfect windbreak, that hollow in the ground, surprisingly cozy. You lie down on your back and feel the texture of the ground, cool, gritty, familiar, a far cry from modern memory foam, but it cradles you in a weirdly natural way. Your spine curves into the earth, and for once, you don't need to fidget for 5 minutes before settling. The sounds of the forest rise again. Owls, insects, something that might be a frog, or might be your neighbor's snore, and somewhere in the middle of all that you drift, not into deep unconsciousness, but into a kind of restful awareness, a state that early humans mastered. And here's a secret: you probably sleep more like them than you think. You know those moments just before sleep, when your brain starts to float, or when you wake up but don't open your eyes, listening to the world breathe around you, those twilight moments that was most of sleep for prehistoric nomads. Because sleeping in the wild didn't mean shutting off, it meant tuning in to the rhythms of nature, to the sounds of your people, to your own heartbeat slowing as night thickened. Some nights the group stayed quiet. Other nights someone murmured, a fragment of a story, maybe a name of someone lost. A chant half remembered, it wasn't always planned. But in the hush before dreams, voices carried far. And those moments, they became the first whispers of something profound. Not just sleep, not just survival, but connection. Tomorrow you'll move again, pack up your hide, shake out the bugs, walk until your legs burn. But tonight, this patch of dirt is your bed, this shelter your home, then sounds your lullaby. And as you finally fall fully, under no monsters, no jaguars, just dreams, you carry something ancient with you. The instinct to rest not just for yourself, but for the strength of the tribe. Your eyes flutter open just before dawn, and for a moment you're not sure where or when you are. The stars above you fade into a soft blue sky. Someone's already stoking the fire. Another hums gently, maybe to soothe a child, maybe to keep their own nerves from dancing. And you stretch, your joints pop like dry twigs, you groan. It's a beautiful sound. Here's something you've started to notice in your tribal life. Not everyone sleeps the same. Across the camp, there's the first sleeper, someone who always crashes early, dozing off mid-conversation, curled up before the fire has finished crackling. Then there's the watcher, who rarely sleeps until dawn threatens to arrive, scanning the dark with eyes like a nocturnal bird. In the middle, a mix, some light sleepers, some heavy, some who toss, some who vanish into dreams as if swallowed whole by the void. This isn't just coincidence, this is staggered sleep, and it's one of the cleverest survival hacks humans ever stumbled into. By nature or by social design, your group never sleeps all at once. Someone is always semi-alert, a snore here, a rustle there, one person murmuring, another stirring. It's like an overlapping dance of rest. And guess what? Modern research backs this up. In traditional hunter-gatherer societies today, like the Hadza of Tanzania, sleep is staggered in a way that nearly guarantees someone's awake at all hours. No alarms, no shift schedules, just natural variation and teamwork. Historians still argue whether this behavior developed through deliberate planning or organic evolution. Did ancient humans consciously choose sleep shifts, or did it just happen because of age, personality, or even digestion patterns? You lie back and observe the older members. They tend to doze in short bursts. The young ones crash hard like rocks dropped in mud. Teenagers perpetually grumpy at sunrise and impossible to wake. Some things really haven't changed. Then there's you, somewhere in between, sometimes a light sleeper, sometimes not, sometimes dreaming so vividly you wake up laughing or screaming and have no idea why. And speaking of dreams, you roar onto your side and think about the one you just had, something about a glowing tree, or maybe it was a mammoth with wings. Hard to tell. Dreams for your tribe aren't just weird brain static. There are messages, warnings, symbols. In fact, the dream you just had. It might be shared around the fire later, interpreted, taken seriously, or laughed at, or both. There's even an unofficial dream expert in your group, an older woman, mostly quiet, but when she speaks, people listen. She once correctly predicted that the river would rise based solely on her dream of fish swimming through clouds. Coincidence, maybe, but her tent's never empty come morning. Here's a strange but true fringe theory. Some anthropologists believe early human society may have relied on dreamers, visionary types to help guide decision-making, not just elders or leaders, but those who had unusual symbolic dreams, like a prehistoric Jungian council. You laugh at the idea until you remember how much your people trust her visions. And it's not just her. Others contribute. One child claims to speak to ancestors in dreams. A young hunter insists he sees his prey in visions before the real hunt. Whether these claims are real or poetic exaggerations, no one dismisses them. Dreamers get space, get attention. Because in a world without Google Maps or 10-day forecasts, dreams might be the best navigation you have. This is the other layer of prehistoric sleep, the communal interpretation of the unconscious. In your time, sleep is often private, isolated. You toss alone. Wake up and check your phone. Keep your dreams to yourself. But here, sleep is shared, not just physically in the huddle of warmth, but narratively, emotionally. You fall asleep beside your people, and you wake up ready to tell them where your mind wandered. It's intimate, messy, sometimes hilarious. Like the guy who dreamed his own feet turned into rabbits and ran away. He's never living that one down. But it's also profound. One person's dream could become the group's direction, the story passed down, the metaphor repeated. Because long before books or even cave paintings, dreams were the first stories, and sleep, that was the sacred threshold between known and unknown. Now someone nearby laughs, loudly, too loudly. You crack one eye open and see two hunters poking fun at each other, one miming a snore so dramatic it could wake the dead. You smile, because yes, people snored back then too, and yes, they got mocked for it. But snoring wasn't just a nuisance, it might have even been useful. One quirky theory, that loud sleepers help mask quieter. Noises making it harder for predators to distinguish the breathing of a child from the wheeze of an old man, like a natural, unintentional sound screen. Another theory suggests that sounds of sleep, breathing, shifting, muttering were comforting, a reminder that you're not alone, that others are there. Soothing, even if it's also mildly annoying. You've got your tribe's heartbeat in stereo 24/7. And here's something even more fascinating. Your sleep position isn't random. The way you curl, where you face, how you place your arms. These choices are encoded with purpose. You tend to face inward toward the fire, your back toward the dark, your dominant hand close to your chest, near your tool pouch, defensive, ready. Others lie in pairs, couples, siblings or friends, some spoon, some sprawl, the youngest lie beside the most protective adults. Sleep is spatial storytelling, a live action diagram of who protects whom. Even when someone sleeps alone, it means something. Maybe they're a scout, maybe they're in mourning, maybe they just snore too much, but those gaps in the sleeping ring say as much as the filled spaces. Tonight, you'll likely take your usual spot, but maybe, just maybe, you'll lie a little closer to the quiet dreamer, curious about what her visions might show next, or you'll drift off listening to the low murmurs of someone else telling the rabbit foot dream again. And you'll realize something beautiful. Sleep isn't just a biological necessity. For your people, it's a ritual, a performance, a collective moment of vulnerability and trust. And with every staggered breath, every shared dream, every whispered story at dawn, you're not just surviving. You're becoming human. You wake to cold. Not the cozy kind that makes you burrow deeper under the furs, but the sharp, edged kind that bites at your toes and creeps under your spine. You're still wrapped in your hide, but the fire's burned low, and the air feels like it's trying to sneak inside your lungs, with icicle fingers. Someone else is already up, maybe the elder, maybe that hunter who never really sleeps. They're feeding the fire, coaxing it back to life with dry grass and slow breath. You listen to the crackle, grateful. You've started to realize that in this world, whoever tends the fire tends the safety of everyone. Because warmth is life, but it's not just the fire. It's what you sleep on that really determines whether you'll wake up shivering, sore, or just right. Let's talk about bedding. Yes, bedding, because cavemen had it, sort of, and you're currently lying on a mattress of leaves. Okay, not a memory foam miracle with contouring gel layers, but a surprisingly thoughtful creation of dried foliage, moss grass, and occasionally aromatic herbs, like mint or yarrow. These primitivist sleep platforms weren't just for comfort though, let's be real. Anything's better than bare dirt. They also helped insulate your body from the cold ground and repel pests. In fact, archaeologists in South Africa's Sibudu cave discovered 77,000-year-old plant bedding. Yes, bedding laid on ash layers, likely to deter insects. That's older than most written languages, and it proves something. Your ancestors cared about where they laid their heads. It wasn't just pass out wherever, it was an intentional act. So you fluff your leaf, bed a little, as best you can, shake out a few beetles, they're probably more scared of you than you are of them, probably, and add a handful of fresh pine needles for scent. Just a dash of early human self-care. Maybe someone's adjusting their pillow, a rolled hide or maybe a bundle of soft bark. Some folks go for rocks, and yes, some people like it. You suspect they also chew bones recreationally. The fun part, everyone's got a preference. Some like extra leaf padding, some don't. One guy sleeps flat as a board, another curls up like a question mark. You got your spot just right. Slight slope, pine smell, relatively ant-free for now. And here's where things get weirder. Some nights the tribe lines the entire ground with warm ash from the fire. Like a big prehistoric heated blanket, you lay down your hide or leaves on top, and the warmth radiates into your bones long after the embers fade. Luxury. Until you forget to let it cool first and end up roasting your backside like a badly timed marshmallow. There's another trick you've picked up: heated stones. Toss a few into the fire, then bury them under your bedding. Voila, radiant heat. Just try not to roll over one unless you want a rude awakening. Historians still argue whether these bedding techniques evolved purely from necessity, or whether they had symbolic roles. Did aromatic leaves help with dreams? Did certain arrangements suggest status? We may never know, but it's fun to imagine a caveman version of Goldilocks muttering, "This fern pile is too lumpy." As you sit up, you stretch your arms and hear someone yawn loud enough to scare the crows. That's the signal. Morning is beginning, whether you like it or not. You glance over at one of the newer members of the group, someone who just joined from another band. Their bedding completely different. They've layered flat bark over straw, with a hide stretched taut like a hammock. It's weird, innovative, definitely makes your bed look like a forest compost heap. And now you're wondering, what other sleep hacks are out there? What did people beyond your little group do? Well, in colder regions, tribes sometimes built raised sleeping platforms, wooden when available, to keep off damp ground. In icy zones, sleep spaces might be carved into packed snow, insulating the sleeper from wind, but preserving body heat in a way that's actually less freezing than it sounds. And in tropical climates, hammocks. Yes, the precursor to your favorite backyard nap device may have originated thousands of years ago, strung between trees to avoid bugs, snakes, and curious wild pigs. You watch as someone rubs a resin into the floor of their shelter, a kind of gluey sap that doubles as insect repellent and possibly an early air freshener. That's commitment. You make a mental note to steal the idea later. Oh, and speaking of bugs, yeah, let's talk about that. The struggle is eternal. Fleas, lice, ticks, creepy crawlies, you scratch the back of your neck just thinking about it. Which is why bedding wasn't just about comfort, it was survival. The more organic between you and the pests, the better. Some even believe ashes, when sprinkled in the bedding, acted like early bug deterrents. There's an older man in your tribe who insists rubbing crushed mint on your skin before bed keeps the insects at bay. He also says it makes your dreams less haunted. No one argues, he's very convincing and minty fresh. You lie back again, just for a second, let the sounds wash over you, the rustle of leaves, the quiet fire crackling, a baby gurgling somewhere nearby, and you realize this place, this bed of sticks and leaves, has become your bed, for better or worse. It's weird, right? That in a world of uncertainty, this little patch of ground, cleared, padded, adjusted to your preference, is something like home. And here's the final weird twist. Modern scientists say that sleeping outside, closer to the earth, and in line with natural light cycles, actually improves sleep quality. Maybe not every night, but often the ground helps regulate temperature, fresh air promotes better breathing, no fluorescent lights buzzing. Just the moon, your breath, and the quiet symphony of life. So tonight, you rebuild your bedding with care. Shake the leaves, add some fresh straw, maybe rub a little mint on your wrists. Then you curl in, head resting on bark, knees tucked close. It's not luxury, but it is yours. And just before you close your eyes, you think, tomorrow, I might try that bark stretched hide trick, not because you need to, but because your ancestors, they weren't just survivors. They were sleep engineers. You drift off, your breath sinking with the slow rhythms of the tribe around you. The fire is a soft pulse now, barely glowing like the last light in the sky before true night settles in. Sleep comes easier when your belly's full, the ground is warm, and no one's snoring in your ear, though let's be honest, that last part is hit or miss. But tonight something's off. Your eyes pop open. There's a rustle. A low growl, a snap of a twig just beyond the perimeter. Every muscle in your body tenses like a pulled cord. You're not alone in waking. Around the circle, others stir. Someone sits up. One of the kids clutches their mother. You instinctively reach for the sharpened stick you keep within arm's reach. You knew that habit would pay off. This is one of those moments when sleep and danger brush shoulders. One of those nights that reminds you you're still an animal sleeping in a world that doesn't care about your need for rest. Predators. Not a fun topic, but hey, it's real. And if you want to understand how cavemen slept, you've got to understand how they didn't get eaten while doing it. Let's face it, humans aren't exactly apex predators on our own. We don't have claws, fangs, or night vision. What we do have is strategy, and that's what sleep, at its core, evolved into a strategic act. In this case, it's all about where you sleep. Caves sometimes, but not always, contrary to the Flintstones image stamped into your brain. Early humans were just as likely to sleep in open air camps, under rock overhangs, or inside makeshift huts made of sticks, hides, and mud. Why not just always sleep in caves? Great question. Because caves are terrifying. They're dark, damp, echoey, and often already occupied by bears, leopards, hyenas, or other creatures with no concept of personal space. Sure, caves offered protection from weather, but they also served as the animal kingdom's version of a bed and breakfast, with you as the breakfast. So your ancestors learned to be picky. If they used caves at all, they went shallow, places where they could build fires, maintain visibility, and make noise. Deep, winding labyrinths. No thanks. We'll pass. Historians still argue whether caves were permanent homes or temporary shelters. Some evidence points to long-term cave dwellings. Other findings suggest caves were more like emergency motels during storms or migrations. Either way, sleeping in one came with rules. The tribe would post a watch, keep fires burning, use positions where one entrance couldn't be ambushed, safety in the shadows. You sit up now listening, that rustle earlier. It's gone. Maybe it was nothing, a deer, a branch falling, or maybe it was something, but the firelight's strong enough, the group's alert enough, and the tribe's made this place its own. And that's the real trick-claiming space. Humans are territorial sleepers. Even today, you put your bag on a bus seat to signal mine, you draw bedroom lines, you tuck in sheets, just so, that need to control our sleep environment. Deep-rooted, primal, because sleep is the most vulnerable thing we do. The caveman says version of locking the door is a circle of bodies, a well-fed fire, and a few pointy sticks arranged just right. Some groups even slept in trees. Yes, actual trees. The idea might sound bananas, and yes, there were bananas, but sleeping in trees gave certain early humans an advantage. Elevation, safety from predators, a breeze to keep bugs away, and no surprise visits from snakes unless they were especially ambitious. Researchers studying the behavior of chimpanzees, and even some isolated modern groups, have found evidence that tree nests, built high in the branches and cushioned with leaves, were not just for naps. They were deliberate sleeping platforms, and incredibly cozy if you ignore the whole "what if I roll off in my sleep" thing. Another sleeping spot: cliff edges. You heard that right. Some daring groups would sleep along sheer rock faces, with narrow ledges barely wide enough to lie on. Why? Because predators hate climbing, or, more likely, because the view was unbeatable. Imagine waking up to a prehistoric sunrise over the savannah, totally worth the vertigo. The truth is, your ancestors adapted their sleep to their surroundings with stunning creativity. In the highlands, they might sleep near thermal vents, using the Earth's warmth as a heat source. In desert zones, they dug shallow trenches or shaded pits to avoid the scorching day and hide from the chill of night. In cold tundras, people might huddle inside semi-subterranean huts made of sod, bone, and hide, warmed by body heat and sealed from wind. And always, there was fire. You glance at it now, its glow casting long, dancing shadows against the low branches overhead. Fire wasn't just warmth, it was defense. Predators hated it, so your tribe kept it going in shifts. Maybe not a roaring blaze, but a smoldering core that never quite died. Someone always fed it. Someone always watched it. A fringe theory. Some scientists suggest that the mastery of fire and its nighttime use was the very thing that allowed early humans to evolve longer periods of consolidated sleep. Before fire, maybe we only slept in short, terrified bursts. Once we could push back the dark, we could finally dream longer. So fire didn't just cook your food, it cooked your brain into the modern human it would one day become. Now, as the quiet returns to the camp, you ease back down. The moment has passed. No predator, no danger, just that ever-present hum of nature: wind, rustling grass, insects clicking, the low thrum of animal life moving far beyond your reach. You shift, draw your hide tighter, and stare at the stars. In this moment, you remember that sleep has always been a risk, but it's one worth taking, because if you didn't rest, you couldn't survive, and if you couldn't survive, well, you wouldn't be here. So sleep tight, and don't let the saber-toothed tigers bite. You wait to the scent of smoke and something sweet. Someone's tossed a hunk of roasted root into the embers, and now the air smells like caramel and ash. You roll onto your side, peeking through the leafy curtain that serves as your shelter's door, and spot a few early risers already crouched over the fire, chewing, grunting, waking. But you're thinking about something else. You're thinking about dreams. Because last night you had one. You were running barefoot, fast, wind in your face. A mammoth chased you, but you weren't scared, you were laughing. And when you turned around, the mammoth had your grandmother's voice and offered you a basket of berries. Weird, yes. Meaningful. Who knows? But that's the point. In your world, dreams mean things. To your tribe, they're more than random stories stitched together by a sleeping brain. They're signs, warnings, memories of the spirit world, maybe even messages from ancestors, or sneak peeks of a future not yet lived. You sit up slowly, still groggy, still full of questions. Because here's the thing, sleep isn't just about rest, it's about what happens while you're resting. And for your people, what happens in the dream world is just as real, sometimes more real than the one with fire and leaves and saber-toothed nightmares. Dream interpretation is serious business. You glance toward the elder, a woman with silver in her braids and eyes that seem to know exactly what you're thinking. She's the tribe's dream keeper. People come to her in the morning, still rubbing sleep from their eyes, and describe what they saw: a red bird, a bleeding tree, a laughing mammoth. She listens. She nods. She mutters things like, the spirits are testing you, or don't eat fish today. And no one argues. Even now, historians still argue whether early humans truly believed dreams were messages from beyond, or if dreams just offered a convenient excuse to make sense of their world. Either way, they mattered, and they influenced real decisions: where to hunt, when to move, who to trust. You've had your own collection. Some were comforting, like the time you dreamed you floated over the plains like a bird, weightless and free. Others were terrifying: teeth, fire, a cave with no exit. You woke, drenched in sweat, heart slamming like a drum. And the weirdest part, sometimes you dream of things you've never seen. A creature with a long neck, a place with towering trees, rain that falls in colored sheets, and you wonder, are they memories, visions, a trick of the mind, or something else? Some fringe researchers today think our ancestors' dreams might have helped fuel their creativity, sparking the earliest myths, cave paintings, and even inventions. Imagine dreaming of flying before you've ever seen a bird up close, or dreaming of fire before you know how to make it. Inspiration from sleep. There's a little kid poking at his toe with a stick nearby. He tells you he dreamed of a snake with a feather beard. You ask him what it said. He shrugs. It just smiled. Repeat. Dreams also shaped rituals. Some tribes believed you shouldn't speak right after waking, because the dream still clung to your spirit like dew on grass, and talking too soon would shatter it. Others had morning chants, shared group dream sessions, or special plants that guided dreams and, let's be real, probably got them a little high. You remember one guy who swore that sleeping with a bone under his head made his dreams clearer. Another believed fasting sharpened the mind and thinned the veil between worlds. You tried it once. All you got was a growling stomach and a vision of dancing mushrooms. Not magic mushrooms, sadly. Still, the line between dream and reality is thin out here. You live with mystery every day. You don't need proof to believe that a dream can change your life. And it's not just humans who dream. Ever seen a dog twitch its paws while sleeping, or a cat make tiny squeaks with its eyes closed? Studies show even modern animals cycle through REM sleep. Maybe your ancestors saw it too, whispering, "He's hunting dream rabbits." Sleep studies today suggest early humans may have experienced different patterns than you do. Shorter night sleeps broken by brief, wakeful periods, more REM in the early morning, and dreams likely more vivid, shaped by raw sensory input, real survival fears, and the constant dance between predator and prey. You lie back again, letting your mind wander. A scholar once proposed that the first myths weren't told around campfires, they were dreamed first, that stories were born in sleep, then spoken aloud, turned into song and symbol. Makes sense, doesn't it? Dream logic is myth logic, shifting shapes, animals who talk, places that stretch beyond time. Your tribe paints their dreams sometimes ochre on rock, charcoal on bark. Strange symbols, spirals, hands, animals with too many legs. You wonder if someone 10,000 years from now will look at those drawings and say, this was a map, or maybe this was a memory of sleep. That dream you had last night, the laughing mammoth, it stays with you all day. Maybe it's a warning, maybe it's nothing, or maybe it's just your brain's way of reminding you to lighten up even when a mammoth charging your way. Either way, you decide not to ignore it. Tonight, when you lie down, you place a stone beside your bed, the same one the elder once called dream anchor. You breathe slowly, let your thoughts go soft at the edges, and you whisper to the night, just in case something or someone is listening. Only something worth remembering. And maybe they will too. Your eyes flutter open, and for a moment, you don't know what time it is. The sky above is turning that soft, bruised purple, somewhere between moonset and sunrise. It's quiet, but not the kind of quiet that means nothing's happening. It's the hush of breath held in a world that's always moving. You shift under your hide blanket, listening to the faint crunch of footsteps on earth and the far-off yip of what might be a fox, or something pretending to be one. This is the middle of the night, or in your world, the waking time. Because contrary to the modern idea of a solid 8-hour block of sleep, your ancestors didn't always snooze straight through. Instead, they often followed something called segmented sleep, 2 distinct periods of rest, separated by a calm, reflective hour or two in the middle of the night. You drift off after dusk, maybe around the time the fire died down. Then a few hours later, bam, you'd be wide awake. Not in a panic, not because of stress or insomnia, just a become, like your body decided, yeah, let's pause and digest existence for a bit. Historians still argue whether segmented sleep was universal or regional. Some suggest it was common in pre-industrial societies, especially in temperate climates where night lasted a good long while. Others think it was just one of many sleep patterns, shifting with the seasons, the tribe's needs, or the local wildlife situation. But here's what you do know: this midnight intermission isn't a curse, it's an opportunity. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes, and look around. A few others are stirring too, sitting by the embers, whispering, relieving themselves behind bushes, maybe even getting a little romantic. Yes, night was also prime cuddle time. Don't ask, you'll blush. There's no urgency, no shame in being awake. Just the quiet hum of being alive in the pause. In this little pocket of stillness, people do all kinds of things. Some pray, others reflect on dreams, saw tools, braid cord, sharpen weapons. A few sneak off to meet friends or rivals. There's even an elder who likes to tell stories during this hour, their voice low, soothing, as if speaking directly to the night. You inch closer to the fire where someone's added a few twigs. The glow casts strange shapes onto their face, flickering shadows that move like ghosts from another age. They're carving something slowly and carefully. A symbol, maybe something they saw in a dream, maybe just a shape that feels like home. You pick up a bit of dried meat and chew thoughtfully. Your stomach's awake too, hungry in that weird midnight way that feels part nostalgia, part survival instinct. You wonder what it was like before this rhythm, before fire and community made segmented sleep feel safe. Fringy theories propose that this pattern might even have helped our species, that these quiet, wakeful hours weren't wasted, they were productive, reflective, essential, a time for creativity, problem-solving, even bonding. Think of it, in the middle of the night with predators at bay and the sky full of stars, you're surrounded by people in their softest, most open state. The middle of the night becomes a sacred time. And let's be honest, who hasn't woken at 3 a.m. feeling like the only conscious being on the planet? It's eerie, but it's also kind of magical. You, the moon, and your thoughts, nothing between them. Back then, with no clocks or digital distractions, your inner clock was tuned to nature. You learned to trust your instincts, wake, think, listen, sleep again, like tides, like breath. You lean back, letting the firelight play on your face. And just like that, it hits you. The stillness, the peace of this in-between space. You're not rushing, not worried about alarms or deadlines. The night welcomes you as one of its own. There's a kid nearby, maybe 6 years old, half asleep, gnawing on a root. His eyes meet yours and he grins, toothy and content. He doesn't think this is weird. This is just life. So you sit together, saying nothing, sharing the silence. Eventually, your eyelids grow heavy again, the fire's down too, soft orange coals. You wrap yourself in your blanket, lie down in the same spot, and feel your body sink into the earth like it's cradling you. Around you, the others do the same. One by one, they slip back into dreams. It's the second sleep. No alarm wakes you, no phone buzzing, just light creeping into the world again, just birds stirring, bugs clicking, the familiar smells of dawn, the breath of dew, the smoke from fading embers, the faint musk of unwashed feet. And you feel good, whole, not groggy, not rushed, like your sleep has rhythm, like it knows what it's doing, like maybe your ancestors were onto something after all. So the next time someone tells you waking at 2 a.m. is unnatural, you can whisper, very gently, that it might just be your inner caveman clock ticking right on time. You're up before the sun again, only this time there's a bite in the air. You stretch, crack a few joints, and pull your hide tighter around your shoulders. Your breath puffs out in soft clouds, and as you shuffle to the fire, you notice everyone seems a little slower this morning, a little more hunched, a little less willing to leave the warmth of the flames. Welcome to winter sleep mode. Out here in the wild, seasons aren't just about changing leaves or snowflakes, they're full-blown lifestyle adjustments. And when winter rolls in, your sleep changes too. Longer nights mean longer rest, not necessarily because you're exhausted, but because what else are you going to do when it's pitch black for 15 hours and your nearest entertainment is a rock shaped like a duck? You curl up near the fire, grateful for its heat, and yawn around you. Others are still tucked in tight, half asleep. Some will stay that way until the sun fully rises, which won't be for a while, because winter is nature's subtle command: slow down. Historians still argue whether early humans truly hibernated in a loose sense. Some suggest Paleolithic people may have entered a kind of low-activity torpor, resting more, eating less, and reducing movement during brutal months. Sounds a lot like your average January, honestly. While there's no solid evidence humans ever hibernated the way bears do, no, 6-month snooze with snack storage in your belly, there's archaeological evidence from ancient European caves showing seasonal markers in human bones, thinner growth lines, less wear, suggesting, less activity during colder months. You scoot closer to the fire and look up. The stars are still out. Orion is there, his belt glinting faintly in the sky, watching you like a cosmic referee. The air smells different in winter, doesn't it? Less earthy, more icy, sharp. Even the smoke seems crisper, if that makes any sense. This time of year, your tribe adjusts sleep around fire duty. With temperatures plummeting, someone has to keep that fire fed, or else you're all waking up as human popsicles. So watch rotations develop. Each person takes a turn tending the flames during the night. You've done your share of fire shifts. It's not glamorous. You sit hunched in the cold, your fingers stiff and nose running, while the wind whistles through every gap in the shelter. But it's peaceful too, sacred even, a solitary vigil against the dark. You whisper to the flames sometimes just to feel less alone. And they crackle back like they're listening. Someone mutters nearby and throws a fur over their head. Classic winter denial. Others are starting to stir, though reluctantly. The fire gets a few logs. A pot goes on to boil something you hope isn't squirrel again. You think about sleep in this season, how it feels heavier, deeper. Like your body's storing energy the way trees store sap. Some modern researchers even suggest winter sleep in early humans was polyphasic. Multiple short naps spread through the day and night, like sleep became a kind of flexible blanket you pulled around yourself whenever needed. Imagine catching a nap at noon because it's too cold to hunt, then another around twilight. No guilt, just survival. Fringe theories. Oh, they get wild in winter. There's one that says ancient humans practiced dream incubation more in these months, seeking guidance from spirits on where to find food or when to move camp, something about longer nights being more conducive to spiritual clarity. Or maybe that's just what happens when you've been stuck inside with 10 people and no personal space for 3 weeks. Still, you do dream more now, or at least you remember them more. The cold air somehow sharpens everything, your senses, your thoughts, even your imagination. Last night you dreamed of a giant elk with burning antlers leading you across a frozen lake. The elder said that means change is coming. You asked if it was good or bad. She shrugged. That's your story to find out.
Classic elder.
Winter also means a return to group sleep. You all huddle closer now, safety in numbers, warmth in shared breath. If someone has a cough too bad, you're spooning them anyway. It's not romantic, it's thermal strategy. You sleep more under blankets of furs and hides, stacked like a lasagna of prehistoric warmth. No personal space, no rolling over unless you want to accidentally elbow someone's tooth out. But there's comfort in the crowd, in knowing you're not alone. Outside, frost clings to tree bark and rocks like powdered sugar. A layer of rime makes everything sparkle. As the sun creeps up, it'll melt by midday, but for now it's beautiful, if a little painful when it sneaks into your boots. You sigh, watching a bird hop in the snow, probably looking for the one bug that didn't get the memo about hibernation. Your own stomach growls. Winter means more fat in the diet, seal blubber if you're coastal, bone marrow and whatever else you can hunt if you're inland. It's all about staying alive and conserving energy. So yes, you sleep more. You nap when you can. You lean into the rhythm of the season. You give yourself permission to rest. Because winter isn't the enemy, it's the pause between heartbeats, a necessary stillness, and when the days lengthen again, you'll feel it in your bones, the pull toward motion, toward waking. But for now, pull that fur up to your chin, and let yourself drift again. The sun peeks over the horizon, splashing golden light across the land, and you feel the first real tug of the day. The sky's colors slowly shift from purple to orange to the pale blue you recognize as morning. You blink and stretch, feeling the familiar creaks and groans of a body that's been resting on the hard earth. This is the moment of morning rituals in your tribe, the unspoken, but deeply ingrained, where you and your people transition from sleep back into the waking world. You rise and take a deep breath. The air is cool, crisp, and carries the scent of damp leaves and smoke. A few members of your group are already busy stirring the fire back to life, coaxing sparks from glowing embers like secret keepers resurrecting a flame. Others quietly prepare the first simple meal, roasted roots, a handful of nuts, sometimes dried meat. You watch as the children rub sleep from their eyes, yawning exaggeratedly, their small hands stretching upward like saplings reaching for sunlight. There's a strange comfort in these shared moments, a feeling that you're not alone in the fragile cusp between dreaming and day. Morning rituals may seem mundane to outsiders, but for your tribe they are sacred. The ways you clean your face with cold water from a nearby stream, brush dirt and sleep crust from hair, or gently tap the earth with a ritual stick, all these small acts are part of waking up body and soul. Historians still argue about how structured these morning rituals were among early humans. Some think they were loose habits, born from necessity. Others propose they were a kind of spiritual preparation, a bridge between night's mystery and day's challenges. One quirky idea is that some tribes used smoke fumigation in the mornings, not just for warmth or cooking, but to cleanse the spirit. Like a natural prehistoric incense, the smoke was believed to drive away evil spirits or lingering dreams that could cling like cobwebs to your mind. You laugh quietly to yourself, imagining if that trend caught on today. Can't sleep, just burn some pine needles, might be the next wellness craze. Meanwhile, you rub your hands together over the fire, savoring the heat, and think about how connected you are to these primal routines. You spot a woman carefully sharpening a flint knife, her movements deliberate and calm. For her, this act is as much a part of mourning as stretching or feeding the fire. It's preparing tools for survival, the way your ancestors have done for millennia. The lines between waking and working are blurred. And while you perform your own morning rituals, a debate buzzes quietly in the background of modern research. To what extent did early humans use ritual to control anxiety or build group cohesion? Were these habits unconscious survival mechanisms, or did they serve deeper psychological and social needs? French scholars have even suggested that morning rituals might have evolved as a counterbalance to the unpredictability of dreams. If dreams were chaotic and confusing, morning routines provided structure, a way to re-anchor your sense of self. You take a sip of cool water, watching as a child dips their fingers in and splashes some on their face, giggling at the cold shock. This simple act feels universal, transcending time. Even today, the splash of cold water in the morning jolts you awake like a tiny liquid slap from the past. As you prepare to move from rest into action, you notice the subtle but important shift in the group's energy. Eyes are sharper, bodies are looser, and there's a silent readiness to face whatever the day might throw at you, be it hunting, gathering, or simply surviving. So you embrace the quiet power of morning rituals, the slow awakening of senses, the ritual washing of face and hands, the tending of fire and tools. These are not just habits, they are threads that connect you to those who came before, and those who will come after. You tuck a stray hair behind your ear and smile to yourself. The day has begun, the world is waking up, and you, somehow, feel a little more awake too. The sun is climbing higher now, and the forest around you hums to life. Birds chatter like gossipers, insects buzz their busy tunes, and somewhere close, a river gurgles cheerfully over smooth stones. You stretch again, but this time it's different. Your muscles wake with purpose, ready for movement, ready to chase, gather, explore. This is the rhythm of daytime rest and napping, the often overlooked counterpoint to the nighttime sleep you've grown accustomed to thinking about. You might be surprised to learn that your ancestors didn't just sleep at night and power through the day like some kind of prehistoric caffeine machine. Nope, the evidence suggests they embraced the midday, pause an informal, restorative nap when the sun was at its hottest and the day felt slow. Historians still argue whether this was a strict siesta or more of a flexible habit. Some anthropologists propose early humans took polyphasic naps, meaning several short sleeps sprinkled through the 24-hour cycle, instead of one big sleep block. Imagine catching a quick doze under a tree, a few minutes here, a half hour there, whenever the world slowed down enough. Sounds pretty ideal, right? There's a quirky piece of fossil evidence pointing to this. Certain skeletal wear patterns suggest periods of inactivity during daylight hours, especially in tropical or equatorial zones where heat would have made mid-afternoon hunting a miserable affair. So, while you're snoozing, your ancestors might have been doing the same thing, dodging heat stroke and saving energy. You find a shady spot, sink down onto a bed of moss, and close your eyes for a moment. The warmth of the sun filtered through the leaves is soothing, like a natural weighted blanket. A few buzzing flies circle lazily, but you barely notice. There's a little debate on whether early humans truly napped consciously, or if these daytime rests were light dozes halfway between wakefulness and sleep, a kind of relaxed vigilance. You can picture it, half asleep but still alert enough to hear a rustle or the crack of a twig, ready to jump up if a predator came wandering too close. Fringe theories. Some suggest that daytime rest helped early humans maximize cognitive function. Instead of grinding through exhaustion, these naps might have boosted memory consolidation, creativity, or problem-solving, like a biological reboot. You smile to yourself, thinking about your modern counterparts, who swear by power naps and swear even more by coffee. Nearby group of children play with sticks and stones, their laughter mixing with the breeze. They're not sleeping, but their energy bursts and lulls mimic the rhythm of naps and play, nature's way of teaching rest and activity in balanced doses. You notice your body craving a brief rest after the morning's activities, the hunting, the tool making, the social chatter. It's a gentle pull, not a desperate need, and that's the beauty of this ancient pattern. Sleep isn't forced, it's welcomed when the body and environment align. Emeli definiment align. You close your eyes for a moment longer, feeling the steady heartbeat of the earth beneath you, the distant call of a hawk overhead. This rest, this pause, it's as much a part of your daily survival as hunting or gathering. You imagine your ancestors doing the same, finding cool patches of earth or shaded rock, curling up briefly to recharge, then springing back to life with renewed strength. And when you finally rise, ready to join the tribe again, you feel a little sharper, a little more connected to the natural rhythms that governed life, long before electric lights and alarm clocks. So maybe next time you feel that mid-afternoon slump, instead of fighting it, just lean into it. Your inner caveman might thank you. As the sun continues its arc toward evening, you find yourself moving through the camp with a slower, more deliberate pace. The heat softens, the shadows stretch longer, and the land begins to exhale after a day's intensity. The sounds of daytime bustle fade into a quieter symphony of crickets, rustling leaves, and the gentle crackle of renewed fires. This is the time of preparing for night, when your tribe shifts focus from activity to rest. You gather with others around the fire, feeling the comforting warmth against cooling skin. The scent of burning wood mingles with earth and sweat, an ancient perfume that tells you, day is done, night is coming. There's a rhythm to these evening preparations that feels like a sacred ritual. You help arrange furs and hides, making sleeping spaces that offer some protection from the chill and creeping insects. Someone sharpens tools, another tends to the children, and the elders exchange quiet conversations in low voices, discussions about the day's success, plans for tomorrow, or the whereabouts of game. Historians still debate how structured these evening rituals were. Some argue that the act of settling down was spontaneous, driven purely by exhaustion and environmental cues. Others believe there were specific traditions, perhaps songs, prayers, or communal storytelling, that helped ease the transition from wakefulness to sleep. You can imagine a scene where the tribe circles around the fire, the flickering light casting faces into shadows that dance like spirits. Someone begins a story about the moon's birth, their voice soft but captivating, pulling everyone's attention away from the dark. A quirky tidbit here: there's evidence that prehistoric humans might have used simple forms of white noise to help soothe restlessness, like repetitive humming, rhythmic drumming, or even the steady crackle of fire itself. Modern sleep experts might call it auditory sleep conditioning, but for your ancestors, it was probably just a comforting backdrop to the night. You sit back listening to the crackling fire and the soft murmur of voices. The flicker of the flames reminds you of something earlier when you woke in the middle of the night and saw that elder carving a symbol by firelight. Maybe these evening rituals were all connected, a continuous thread weaving through the night, binding the tribe together. There's a small debate among anthropologists about the role of light itself. Some argue that the invention and control of fire fundamentally changed human sleep by extending evening activity, delaying bedtime, and making segmented sleep possible. Others think it introduced new challenges, like exposure to smoke or disrupted circadian rhythms. You shake your head slightly, marveling at how something as simple as fire could hold so much power over your ancestors' lives, keeping them safe, warm, and awake longer, while also guiding them toward rest. As the fire dies down to embers, the mood softens. You notice how your heartbeat slows, your breathing deepens, and the world outside the camp seems to draw a curtain of darkness over itself. You tuck yourself into your furs, the texture's rough but familiar. There's a satisfaction in these simple, shared actions, a sense of belonging that stretches back through the ages. Prepping for night isn't just practical, that is emotional. It's a moment of letting go. And as your eyelids close, you feel the cycle continuing, the promise of dreams and rest waiting just beyond the veil. Night deepens, and your world shrinks to the soft glow of dying embers and the steady rhythm of breathing around you. The cold settles in, slipping through the cracks of your hide shelter, brushing against your skin like a ghostly reminder that this is a time for stillness. Here lies the heart of segmented sleep, the mysterious pattern that defined how many early humans rested through the night. Unlike your modern notion of a solid 8-hour block, your ancestors likely experienced sleep in 2, or sometimes more, distinct phases, with periods of wakefulness in between. You're nodding off, then waking briefly, not fully alert but aware enough to take in the night sounds, maybe share a quiet word, or tend the fire. Historians still debate why this pattern existed. Some say it was a practical adaptation to danger, waking to check for predators or keep watch. Others propose it was a natural part of human circadian rhythms before artificial lighting changed our habits. Interestingly, this segmented sleep pattern is still observed in some traditional societies today, even in pre-industrial Europe. Historical records from as recent as the 17th century mention a first sleep and second sleep, with a quiet hour in between for reflection or intimacy. You feel the cool night air brushing your face and the crackle of the last embers in the fire. In this quiet hour, some believe ancient humans used the time to tell stories, make art, or even connect spiritually, a liminal moment between the realms of wakefulness and dreams. one quirky tidbit. There's some evidence that early humans might have used herbs or natural substances during this wakeful period to induce relaxation or even mild hallucinations, helping them journey deeper into the night's mystery. You can almost picture the elders softly crushing leaves in their hands, murmuring secrets into the smoke. Segmentation wasn't just about survival, it was woven into the cultural fabric of the night. You close your eyes again, letting your mind drift with the flow of this ancient rhythm. Your body feels heavy, and the pull of sleep is strong, but this wakeful window offers a curious clarity. You're not fully awake, not fully asleep, somewhere in between. The debate continues about how modern life disrupted this pattern. Artificial light, alarm clocks, and the 9-to-5 grind pushed segmented sleep out of favor, replaced by the myth of continuous uninterrupted rest. But you feel something ancient in this cycle, a reminder that rest isn't always about shutting down. Sometimes it's about quiet presence. As the night stretches on, you drift back into the second sleep, your breath slowing, your muscles relaxing fully, your mind surrendering to dreams that flicker like firelight. And somewhere in the darkness, the tribe sleeps on, wrapped in the soft fragmented embrace of the first sleep. The night stretches on, and you find yourself slipping deeper into the shadowy world of dreams and their place in prehistoric sleep. As your breathing evens out and your muscles fully relax, the boundary between reality and imagination blurs. Dreams, as vivid and strange as they can be, were probably an essential part of how your ancestors processed the world, a nighttime theater where worries, hopes, and memories played out in surreal patterns. Modern science tells us dreams help consolidate memories and solve problems, but the role dreams played for early humans is a topic historians and anthropologists still debate fiercely. Did they see dreams as messages from the spirit world, warnings, or just the brain's way of cleaning up after a busy day? Here's a quirky idea. Some scholars suggest prehistoric people may have practiced lucid dreaming, the rare ability to become aware that you're dreaming and even control it. This notion comes from cave paintings that some interpret as visual representations of trance or altered states. Imagine that, cavemen not just sleeping but actively navigating the dream world like a cosmic game. You chuckle quietly to yourself at the idea of a caveman trying to will a dream monster into a friendly mammoth. Come on, big guy, don't eat me, be my dream buddy. The link between dreams and spirituality also comes up in tribal rituals. Some groups might have used dreams as guidance for hunting strategies, healing, or social decisions, blurring the lines between sleep, consciousness, and culture. You can almost hear the crackling fire from earlier, the storyteller's voice weaving tales inspired by the night. Visions. Maybe those stories were born from dreams, shared to preserve knowledge and keep the tribe connected across generations. The sleep cycles you experience tonight echo those distant rhythms. Dreams punctuate the deep phases of sleep, offering a glimpse into a mysterious mental realm. Scientists continue to argue over how much dreaming early humans did and what they made of it. Some say the dream state itself evolved as a survival advantage, giving your ancestors mental space to rehearse dangers or create social bonds. Your eyes flutter beneath closed lids, and images shift like shadow puppets on the cave wall of your mind. Faces, places, sounds, some familiar, some utterly alien. You let yourself float in this dreamscape, knowing that when morning comes, the world will be waiting, but for now the night holds its secrets close. Dawn edges closer, but the night's quiet still lingers. Your body is heavy, wrapped in the warm warmth of furs, yet your mind feels light, almost suspended between sleep and wakefulness. This is the delicate phase of waking and reawakening before the final sleep, that curious limbo, where your ancestors often lingered before greeting the new day. Historians still argue over how early humans experienced this moment. Did they arise fully awake, ready to seize the day, or did they slip in and out of awareness, like gentle ripples on a pond, stretching the transition from night to morning? You remember from earlier the segmented sleep pattern, the middle of the night quiet hour, that the night wasn't always a straight line from sleep to wake. Often it was a dance of fades and returns, where your ancestors moved between rest and awareness. A quirky tidbit: some researchers propose that this waking period was a perfect time for quiet contemplation, spiritual connection, or even early forms of meditation, a chance to reflect in the stillness before daylight. Maybe the silence allowed your ancestors to tune into the forest's subtle signals, the rustling of prey, the distant calls of other humans, or the soft whisper of the wind. You slowly open your eyes, the dim light filtering through leaves above. Your limbs feel stiff but ready, and your breath matches the steady rhythm of dawn. The fire embers are nearly gone, but a faint glow remains, casting a warm, flickering light that seems to echo the flicker of your waking mind. The debate continues on whether this early morning period helped build social bonds, with tribes quietly reconnecting before the hustle of the day. Perhaps it was a sacred time, reserved for storytelling, planning, or simply sharing warmth. You reach for a handful of water from a nearby bowl, the coolness awakening your senses. The smells of earth and smoke mingle in the air, grounding you fully back into the world. Your mind drifts back to the idea of meditation, how even now people seek moments of quiet before the chaos. It seems your ancestors mastered this instinct naturally, guided by the rhythm of night and day. You feel the slow shift inside yourself, the transition from sleep's embrace to alertness. And with that, you prepare for the final stretch of rest, before the full day unfolds. With the last traces of night slipping away, you prepare for the final sleep and full awakening, the conclusion of the ancient sleep cycle that has shaped human life for millennia. This last phase is where your body sinks back into rest, replenishing the final reserves of energy before the new day fully blooms. It's a softer, lighter sleep than the deep cycles you experienced earlier, more a gentle drifting toward consciousness than a plunge into unconsciousness. Historians still debate how long this final sleep lasted and whether it resembled your modern morning naps or something more profound. Some studies of hunter-gatherer societies suggest it was brief, a quick reset before rising. Others think it might have been a longer, uninterrupted phase. The quirky bit here: some ethnographers have noticed that early morning sleep was often accompanied by dream recall and storytelling, like waking from a dream state and sharing visions with others to guide the day. As actions. You imagine more tribes sharing whispered stories of night's dreams over the fire embers, using these fragments to predict weather, hunt, or navigate social tensions. Modern sleep science confirms that this early morning phase is often rich in REM sleep, the stage where vivid dreams occur, supporting the idea that dreams were woven tightly into daily life. You feel your breathing slow and deepen again, the final tug of sleep pulling you gently down. Your muscles loosen completely. Your mind drifts through shadowy corridors of half-formed images and quiet emotions. You sense the promise of waking, the world outside growing brighter, more insistent. But for now you linger in this suspended moment, caught between night and day. As dawn breaks fully, you stretch and awaken, feeling the weight of night's rest leave you light and ready. The cycle is complete. You smile softly, marveling that, despite all the modern trappings and distractions, the core rhythm of your sleep hasn't changed so much since those first fires burned in the dark. And with that you step into the day, carrying the memory of the first sleep deep within you. The morning sun is warm on your face now, and you rise slowly, carrying with you the lingering sensations of ancient sleep rhythms. As the tribe stirs, the world around you begins to hum with renewed life, the rustle of leaves, the chatter of animals, and the faint echo of footsteps on soft earth. This final section draws together the lasting legacy of prehistoric sleep habits, how those first sleep patterns still shape our nights, even in the glowing age of electricity and smartphones. You think about the segmented sleep, the naps, the gentle waking hours in between, and how modern life has both embraced and discarded these ancient rhythms. Maybe you felt the tug of that mid-afternoon lull, or the strange clarity of waking in the night. These aren't just quirks. They're echoes of a deep, ancestral connection to the natural world. Historians and sleep scientists continue to debate the extent to which we can, or should, reclaim these patterns. Some argue that our 24/7 lifestyles have disconnected us from our evolutionary design, contributing to widespread sleep problems and health issues. Others say modern sleep, with its consolidated blocks and artificial light, is a new chapter in human adaptation. Here's a quirky reflection. Studies show that even today, many people instinctively sleep in two phases if given the chance, waking briefly in the middle of the night without alarm or stress. It's as if your brain remembers the ancient rhythm, quietly humming beneath the surface of modern consciousness. You smile, imagining your ancestors settled by the fire, wrapped in hides, sharing dreams and stories in the pause between sleeps. That pause wasn't just rest, it was connection, reflection, survival. Now, as you prepare for your day, you carry that history with you, a reminder that sleep isn't just a biological necessity, but a profound thread linking you across time. So next time you yawn mid-afternoon or wake briefly in the night, remember, you're part of a story that began long before your time, in the deep, dark forests where the first humans learned how to rest. And maybe, just maybe, honoring that rhythm will help you find a little more peace in your own sleep tonight. The night has unfolded gently, and now your eyelids grow heavy once more. The world outside fades to a soft blur of shapes and shadows, a quiet space where only the soft hum of your breathing remains. There is no rush here, no urgent call to action, just the slow, steady rhythm of rest returning. You might feel the softness of your bed beneath you, the whisper of cool air brushing your skin, the steady pulse of your heartbeat, echoing a timeless lullaby. Imagine those ancient fires now dimmed to embers, the tribe tucked into their furs, breathing softly in the hush of the dark. This moment, suspended between waking and dreaming, is a gift you share with countless generations who came before. They rested in these shadows, carried by the same rhythms that carry you now. Theirs was a sleep shaped by nature, by the cycles of sun and moon, by the quiet calls of forest and wind. You breathe slowly, deeply, letting each breath melt away the day as tension. Let your muscles unwind, your thoughts soften, your mind drift. Here, in this peaceful space, there is only calm. Rest well, knowing you are part of a story that stretches back through time, a story written in dreams, fires, and the gentle art of letting go. Sleep now softly, deeply, and wake refreshed when the morning comes.